would probably have to go actually quite a bit, you know. So.
How hard is it to find the right level to match Alan Babbitt?
I feel like tonight was perfect, other than Molina just, when it gets tough, he just looked for a way out. Like he hit Babbage with probably 5 or 6 huge right hands. One wobbled him a little bit, not majorly, but I would have just wished he would have gone to sleep from the first right hand, because that was a big shot. That was a heavy knockdown. And actually, I was surprised he got up. But then when he got up, got through the round, just decided to start throwing himself on the floor. You know, and he's making good money, and it's his last payday for the club. It's 15 stone. So I think that, but I actually think he's better, maybe than I gave him credit for originally. And I thought it was a good performance tonight, to be honest with you.
Who do you put him in with going forward?
I mean, I quite like the fight against the guy who Rivas just boxed. Polish guy, is it Brzezinski or something like that? I think it's nice. I would like to see him move back and fight a smaller guy. He wants to fight Oscar Rivas for the Bridgerweight title. Good fight, but I still think he's a novice compared to Rivas. Is a good fighter, tough fight. So Spilka, you know, these kind of names that go around on certain. Marius Wack, tough fight. He's what, 6'9", 19 stone. Yeah, just the usual suspects, I think, for the next 2 or 3 fights. But everyone wants to watch him fight. He's really entertaining. I mean, he's never going to be dull, is he? But how far he can go, we just don't know. But he's definitely better, and I think a lot of people give him credit for.
Talk about Johnny Fisher supporting that.
Unbelievable. I mean, that was his 4th fight. I've never seen anything like it. Even the massive ticket sellers, right? And there's only a couple that compete with Johnny Fisher. Josh Warrington. Lewis Ritson was close in his heyday. Crolla got there in the end, but not after 3 or 4 fights. They were doing 150 tickets. He's just sold 1,300. I don't know. The dad was saying he could have done another 100 or 200 today. People phoned him up for tickets. But he's talk about Alan Babbage. You know, Johnny Fisher has got loads of potential, but just potential at the moment. He's got a long way to go. I need to give him another 15 fights before we start thinking about him having proper heavyweight fights. I'll tell you what, he filled that place up from the southern area, let alone a British title. You know, it was unbelievable. He's very lucky that he's got people like that supporting him.
Would you consider matching Craig Richards and Josh Buatsi?
Yes, I mean, it's a great fight. All those guys are looking for a world title shot, so they'd rather fight for the world title than fight, you know, a domestic rival. It was only Lyndon Arthur really got pushed into that rematch. He'd rather fight for a world title as well. Callum Johnson, much rather fight for a world title. Buatsi, he'd much rather fight Bivol. Richards would rather rematch Bivol or Joe Smith or whoever it is. But if they can't get a world title shot, and not all of them can, they should fight each other. Now, we just saw it with Smith Fowler, what those big domestic fights can do. And Craig Richards against Buatsi is a brilliant fight. But it's a bit awkward because, you know, Craig and Peter Sims and Josh and, you know, 258. It's like, I don't know, I'd rather make Buatsi against Callum Johnson. I think that's a great fight. And I'd rather make Craig Richards against the winner of Yard and I think, but probably easier to do it in-house.
Is Buatsi Callum out this year?
Callum Smith.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Callum Smith won't box too early next year. I mean, Callum Smith is the guy who is beyond the domestic fights, in my opinion, at the moment, unless it's for a world title. So he has to sit and wait, you know, for that world title shot or have a big fight. Joshua Buatsi is in a brilliant fight on December 18th, which will announce next week. Really tough fight. And then he's ready. That's his last one. He should fight Dimitri Bivol. You know, that's a brilliant fight. And that's an 0-2 fight where if he can win, he becomes a British boxing star. You know, and he can beat Bivol.
And a few for me, sorry.
Oh, you interviewed or you just... We'll announce next week.
Yeah, who else is on the opponent?
We'll announce next week, December 18th.
Yeah,
We'll announce next week.
Joshua Buatsi. Tell us that already.
All right.
And a few for me, if you don't mind.
Drink for you.
In terms of Babic's opponents, you named a few there, but you didn't name the one that he was calling out after the fight. Dave Allen, you have a long history with him. Are you interested in that fight?
I am. I think it's a great fight, and I think everyone would love to see it. But I will only make that fight if Dave takes it for the right reasons, and Dave is happy in himself. Because when he stopped fighting, he wasn't, and I was really pleased that he retired, following the conversations that we had. And when he wanted to come back, why did he want to come back? Did he want to come back for money? Did he want to come back for boredom, or did he want to come back because he genuinely missed it and wants to commit to the sport? I told him to go away and have a couple of fights. He had one. I'd like him to have another. But if I feel like he's fit and healthy, physically and in himself, and he's doing it for the right reasons other than just a few quid, then I will make the fight. But I haven't had those conversations to assure myself of that.
I might be overanalyzing this, but it seemed like you had a new set of referees in play today, given recent refereeing performance. Is that correct? Was there a new set in play?
I didn't have a new set of referees. The British Boxing Board of Control had a new set of referees. I don't know is the answer. I only saw one new ref that I hadn't seen before, I believe. And then there's another gentleman, I don't know his name, who is not as an experienced referee. He actually refereed the Molina fight. And Kieran McCann, who, don't have a problem with him. I didn't like. I said to Robert Smith, the final knockdown wasn't a knockdown. You should have told him to get up. But Robert Smith said he didn't want to continue, and Robert Smith's right, actually. But by counting him, you're ultimately counting him out of the fight. He got pushed on the floor. The ref should have said to him, right, take time to get up, and he wouldn't have been in a position scrambling at 8 or 9 like he was. But anyway, it was irrelevant by then. And the other referee, I think, who refereed the Thomas Carty fight, I've not seen him before.
You announced the doubleheader featuring Kate Taylor and Conor Benn. Who's the headliner?
Conor Benn this time around. Last time, Katie went above him. This time, Conor will go above him. He'll touch wood. We've got a really big fight for him that we'll announce next week. All of that card will be announced next week. Katie will face, I think, her last mandatory before the Amanda Serrano fight. Joe Caldina will be on that card. Probably Alan Babic. Jordan Gill against Guerfi for the European title. Loads of other stuff. And then obviously Chisora Parker the week after with Buatsi. Huge fight for Lerone Richards. Zelfa Barrett, Jack Cullen in a big fight, etc. etc.
Bit off topic, but who do you expect Anthony Joshua's UK broadcast partner to be going forward?
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's no reason necessarily for him to leave Sky. Like they're a brilliant pay-per-view platform. They've had a great relationship with him, and we have as well with AJ, with them. Those talks continue. He's been approached by a number of other broadcasters. Those talks will also continue. It's up in the air. It's not like something that we're on every day at the moment, or even talking about every day. But obviously we know it's got to be dealt with. And 258 and Freddie and myself and AJ will look at all the offers and decide what's best. But there's no. It's not like we want to leave Sky, because they've been a great partner, and certainly they're a very strong option to continue with.
Eddie, can I?
March
For the rematch, yeah, March, maybe April. I mean, I'm seeing Alex Krasuk in next week or so, and then we'll start planning. But I think April, end of March, April.
Did that happen before the one?
Good question. Depends. Maybe we do a double header.
Eddie, can I ask a quick question on signings?
We also saw Thomas Carty going to play hard tonight, Irish professional heavyweight, and Simon of Keegan Alberto yesterday. A lot of the new up-and-coming fighters, amateurs that are hoping to turn over, matching is the dream for them. Just wondering, what is the protocol, or what is the standard? What do matching look for?
Well, with Keegan, Adam Booth approached me about Keegan about 3 or 4 years ago. He said, I've got this kid, he's unbelievably special. But I have those phone calls 10 times a day. And I just said, we haven't got space. And then I watched him, and I was like, fuck. And he's got better and better and better and better. And actually, when I got the phone call to say he was available, we did the deal in 24 hours, 48 hours. So it's not like, getting opportunities is always based on your ability, but also about timing and luck. Just that right moment when, obviously we're in a very competitive market at the moment, so we're being aggressive with signings, but we're not just signing anybody. But again, 4 years ago, it weren't right for us. Now, but I said to him earlier, I'm joking, I said, now you're 9-0, 10-0, whatever it is. How good's that? I said, you've got all your shit fights out of the way. Now we can actually go and have proper fights, and he can really fight. He's so exciting. Thomas Carty was very nervous in the first couple of rounds, but he's a good young talent. Obviously now with Dillian White looking after him, so I don't always look for. At the moment, there's all the Olympians speaking to everybody. Of course, you know you've got good pedigree with those people, but I like saying they'll be different. Like with Johnny Fisher tonight, that to me was as enjoyable as filling a stadium for a unified championship, because it's just old school, isn't it? Like a load of blokes from Romford coming out and supporting a novice who's 3-0. I've never seen anything like it. And seeing him up there on that stage, the country road, his face, you know, that's priceless.
On a related note, when will we see Matchroom return to Ireland for a show?
I will actually try to get December 11th in Belfast, because we've got Kate Taylor. Kevin actually will go December 11th as well, looks like. So next year, hopefully. I mean, Katie is going to fight December 11th, and then we want to do the big room at the Garden for her against Serrano in April. So no, probably a bit later than that. If I can do a deal with Mr. Jake Paul.
Just touching
I'm
on.
right then, I'll stop.
Sorry, just touching on Yusuf Kamari's fight against Castaneda. One of the scorecards had it as a draw, and then the rest was a majority decision. But what did you make of that fight?
Well, I talked the fight up. I thought it was a really good fight, but Coogan said to me earlier, when you know Castaneda against Kamari didn't really catch fast. I thought it was a really good fight, but then I remembered how much I sold that fight all week, and I did sort of said it that it was going to be Gatti Ward 3. But it was a really good fight. I actually thought Castaneda edged the fight. I went over to the scorecard to Darren Barker scoring. He had Kamari by 2, I think. I didn't see that. I didn't see that. I thought it was quite close for the first 6, but I did have probably Kamari edging it. But then I gave Castaneda at a big 8th round, big 9th round. The 10th could have gone either way. Maybe actually Kamari nicked it with the cleaner work. He caught it on his gloves. But I felt like Castaneda edged the fight.
Does he get to be in the home corner next time?
Should be, shouldn't he? I mean, he's beat over Jones. He'll probably get a bit pissed off now. We've got another option on him. But it just shows you how good the depth of fighters. He's not. I mean, he was 15-1 in Toledo. I think he's from Texas, and no one ever heard of him. You know, I mean, he's a quality fighter, and he's got a lot of improvement to make as well.
Eddie, earlier this week we had the announcement of Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. I know that you did the fight in Miami with him.
Started it all, didn't I? Gave him fucking pro debut. What did I do there?
If he beats Tommy Fury, first of all, do you think he'll beat Tommy Fury?
I've only watched Tommy Fury once in a UK show, beating a guy that I could have beaten. You could have beaten as well. And then watched that last fight that he was in, that 4-round or whatever it was, which was absolute like.
And he's good, or the
sparring guy, the guy who spars with Jake Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, logic and hope would tell you that a professional boxer that boxed for a living and was also Tyson Fury's brother and has boxed all his life should never ever lose to Jake Paul. But Jake Paul is not horrific. Like, he's not. There's a lot of pro fighters worse than Jake Paul. I've seen them. I've had a lot of them on my shows with young kids coming through, you know. But it's just the most embarrassing thing if he loses that fight. I mean, and that's why it's got. I feel like that fight's a lot bigger in the UK than it is in America. No one knows who Tommy Fury is in America. I don't actually think it will do great business there, but I think it's going to do good business in the UK. But he can't. I mean, the problem is if it's a ballsy move by Jake Paul, because if he beats him, he's really made a statement. But if Tommy Fury loses, he will. I mean, he's got to change his name or something. Yeah. He shouldn't change his name. He should just go to a desert island somewhere and just stay there for life, because it would just be the most embarrassing thing. But I guess it's entertainment, isn't it? You know. At least it's a fight where you don't really know what's going to happen. I don't mind Jake Paul, what he's doing. He's taking it seriously. He's training. He's putting the sparring in. And I don't agree with all these comments like Javonte, where it says these guys, you know, it's not fair that they're earning all this money for fights, and you've got this other guy who's grinded his whole life and he's not getting the opportunities. Well, he ain't good enough, and he's not built a fan base like Jake Paul. So tough shit. Jake Paul built the fan base. He's very intelligent at what he does, and he's chose boxing. Didn't have to choose boxing. Could have chose OnlyFans.
And second to that, if Jake Paul beats Tommy Fury, which of your guys would you like to see fight and beat Jake Paul?
I'd have to have a go myself, you know, because someone's got to put an end to it. I'd probably get knocked out as well, actually, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I always thought Jake Paul, Conor McGregor, decent fight. You know, it's just the weight difference, and it was it 200 pounds or 190 against 154. It's all a bit mental, though, isn't it? Really, the whole thing.
How's it fun working with him sort of behind the scenes around their fights?
Jake Paul is very bright. He's not always what he said. Like, he's a showman. He's a great self-promoter. But he's intelligent. He knows how to build an audience. He knows how to deliver content. And it's not just him, but you know, other people on these most valuable promotions team. The reason that they want to make Serrano against Taylor is because it's the biggest fight of all time in women's boxing. So he wants to be able to say, we did that. That fight happened because of Jake Paul in boxing. And he wants to get as much money from Amanda Serrano and say, oh, we got the most money that she's ever had, or the highest female purse ever. So I think his intentions, really, he's not doing it to try and make money. He does have, we have all fallen in love with the sport, haven't we? That's why we're here. And I do believe he's fallen in love with boxing as well. So it's not just, I want to just make as much money. I think he enjoys the training. I think he likes the sport. And I think part of him wants to do some things that give him some credibility and show that he actually likes the sport. And there's probably a bit of ego as well, but I genuinely think he would like to be a reason that fight happened, and it happened in the big room at MSG.
Given the fact you said you think it's going to do good business here, would you consider doing another one of those cards in the zone?
Jake Paul?
Yeah, or any YouTuber?
No, not any YouTuber. Like I would do a Jake Paul fight against a boxer in a good fight. Like, I don't have a problem with Jake Paul against Tommy Fury. I don't think it's horrendous. It's just, you know, I would probably do that fight if I was asked to do it. I would probably do Jake Paul against. What I wouldn't do, honestly, is Logan Paul against Floyd Mayweather, 1 or 2, and I wouldn't do Evander Holyfield ever stepping back in the ring, and I wouldn't do an old fighter in a fight, a Legends fight, and I wouldn't do Logan Paul against Mike Tyson. I might do actually.
Would you do KSI with all 3 in the UK?
No. I really enjoyed that, and I love both guys, but I just feel that we have to focus on boxing. I feel like, but again, that's why I don't have an objection with Jake Paul. I think he is boxing, but he is taking part. He's not just fighting. Like, I know the guys haven't been boxers that he's boxed, but at least the fighters, they take part in combat sport. So I don't mind the Jake Paul stuff as long as he fights decent guys. And Tommy Fury, I don't know enough about him, but I presume that he can fight. We'll find out.
If Jake Paul loses to Tommy Fury, would you want him to carry on?
Doesn't mean a row of beans to me, but it will be over. That whole
you
thing.
said he's in love with the sport. He's fell in love with the sport. So if he has fell in love, like you said,
commercially, it would fall off a cliff. The whole thing's going to fall off a cliff soon, just with one bad night or one terror, you know. But at the moment, it's, you know. But if he lost to Tommy, that's why it's a risky fight for Jake Paul, because no one knows who Tommy Fury is in America. But they do in the UK. It's a bigger fight here. But if he loses to a guy that no one's really like, that's why I thought he would have boxed Conor McGregor or something like that. Whereas if he can lose, he can come back and fight Tommy Fury. Yeah.
In your view, how does Dillian Whyte beat Tyson?
Pressure. He needs to dog it out. He needs to be in the kind of fight that Fury was in with Wilder. Because Dillian wouldn't gas out after 3 rounds. He'd go for 12. And that was the only way Wilder was going to beat him, is if he had an engine to carry on from that 3rd round. Was it 3rd round he stopped him?
Yeah.
He was fucked in the 4th round. If he had engine, he could have won that fight. But that's how he's going. He's not going to outbox him. He's got to dog it out, and he's got to hit him hard. He's got to work the body. He's got to rough him up, and he's got to have that kind of fight. And he's got to outlast him.
Ed, obviously you openly admitted that you lost quite a lot of money on this card tonight.
Thank you.
Sorry, just going with that. Do you feel that you have any second thoughts if this same sort of kind of situation would arise another time down the line, you can still go ahead with the card?
Yeah, I never pull cards. Never pull cards. Pulled one card in 11 years, and that was like it was just bizarre circumstances. Because what's the point? Like you can't have it both ways. You can't do a show and make a load of money and just walk out there and think this happens every week. Because there's 9 fighters on the card that we represent that all need to fight. They all need to have their career progressed. They all need to earn money. And if we didn't box them tonight, every other card we've got this year is full. So they would have had no money for Christmas. You know, they would have had no fight before Christmas. They would have been in a training camp for 10 or 11 weeks paying all their expenses. And also our reputation of working with fighters and signing fighters, that's, you know that if you're with us, you don't get fucked around. And if we tell you we're going to do something, we do it. And if it means we have to lose money, then it means we have to lose money. And that's just the swings of the business, unfortunately. That's why it's such a terrible business. It's up there with owning a football club. It's that, you know, because you can have great days and you can have terrible days. You're just waiting for a disaster all the time in this business. You know, we had a run of Josh Warrington against Lara, Liam Smith against Fowler, Joshua against Usyk, massive money on all of those sold out arenas. And I'm thinking, just get through those. Just get through those. And then when you get through those, wallop straight in the nuts. And that's just boxing.
Ultimately, you know this better than I do, that you'll get judged on the card that you end up going with. You mentioned that off the back of even Sky and going to the zone, you're looking to put on better quality cards than you could on Sky. Do you feel this was a better quality card? Actually,
this was a standard. I said leading up to this fight, this was an average matchroom show without Dillian White. Average, not, you know, on paper, nothing spectacular, not poor, and I thought it ended up being a great night. But look at the shows we've been doing, like that. Again, a good example of Smith Fowler. Could never have made that fight on Sky. You know, Warrington against Lara in the stadium, Katie Taylor on the undercard, Conor Benn on the undercard. We've only done, that was our 3rd card on the zone, UK outside of fight camp. One, it's a chance. We've been going for 2 months. You know, very unfortunate to lose Dillian White, would have been, but look at what they've done. They've come back and said, we'd like to add another UK show to give more value to subscribers. Wait till you see the Chisora Parker card, the undercard. They're pay-per-view nights and they're part of the subscription. But now, coming off the back, once Canelo's out of the way, we've got 10 shows in 8 weeks on the zone. 10 shows in 8 weeks. You've got the Sheffield show with Kid Galahad and Harper and Benn Smith. You've got the World Championship quadruple header in New Hampshire with Demetrius Andrade and Martinez and Akhmadaliev and Kaylee Reese. Then you've got Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos. Then you've got Devin Haney hopefully against Jojo Diaz. You've got Bilbao and you've got Milan wedged in between. And actually you've got another one in Uzbekistan. Then you've now got Conor Benn, Katie Taylor, Joe Caldina, Alan Babbage, whoever else on that card. Then you've got Chisora Parker the week after. It's unbelievable value. Who is doing what we're doing? No one. Yet you still ask me soppy questions like that. You know what I mean? I'm joking. But it's true though. You don't ask these other people, no one's doing it. 10 shows in 8 weeks, all in different countries around the world.
I appreciate this last one isn't to do with you, but Gervonta Davis versus Rolly Romero, there's talk about Rolly Romero potentially take a break on that card because of behaviour in the past. Just your comments on that situation there?
I don't know anything about the situation, but I spoke to Devin Haney and I said, are you happy for me to put your name in the mix? And he said, yeah, because at the moment, No Go Diaz has not signed his contract after being offered more to fight Devin Haney than he was getting to fight Ryan Garcia. So we'll have to see what happens. But you know, we want to make the Jojo Diaz fight, but he's got to hurry up and sign the contract.
Maxi Hughes wants that fight.
Yeah, but it's not big enough, in my opinion. You know, that fight is there, and we may end up making it, but we need to make big fights, statement fights in the US market for Devin Haney, and that our preference is Jojo Diaz.
Is there a deadline on that?
Yeah, it's 5 weeks tonight. I mean, they're all training for that date. Even Jojo, he was supposed to be fighting on November 27th, so he's ready. But at some point, we need to go on sale. December the 4th, Mandalay Bay. Sorry, MGM Grand.
Are you looking to add more to your US then? given the fact that you're
I quite like the spot in the US of having a massive budget and being able to pick up certain fights without necessarily running the obligation of 4 fights a year for him, 5 fights a year for him. Do you understand? Teofimo Lopez, a great example of that. You know, where you can pick up a big fight on person. I mean, you still need a stable. We've got a great stable, but I like the opposition to be. I like the ability to be quite fluid in that market as well, and not just say, right, we've got this champion, he's got to fight 3 times a year. We've got this champion, he's got to fight 3 times a year. So the back end of the schedule is really strong. With, you know, obviously you've got Munguia Rosado, you've got our World Championship triple header, Teofimo, Devin Haney, etc. And you know, the numbers in the US are really good. The zone now built a real good brand profile there, where, you know, obviously we haven't got Canelo next week, but they've been watching Canelo Alvarez for $19.99 in a monthly subscription. The next week is $80 for a fight. So, you know, I think they've built a great reputation and they've got a real solid subscriber base, despite losing Canelo Alvarez this fight. Right, guys. Thank you very much. Safe trip home.